There it is, live in Portland, Oregon, as we're experiencing a snowpocalypse right now. Clearly, the city is inundated with snow, as we were warned about over and over. I hope everybody out there is able to survive through this. It's been a rough one. Everybody predicted we were gonna have snow. We didn't. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. This is our daily show here from Digital Trends, where we bring you the trending tech topics of the day, interviews, all kinds of things, all while broadcasting live here on Facebook, Periscope, YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, and across a bunch of other platforms. But because we're live, we can take your comments and questions, and I always like to remind everybody of that. So drop your comments and questions in there. Hello to Brian from California, commenting on Facebook, and everybody who's commenting on the other platforms, we will definitely talk to you today as well. I'm Greg Nibbler, and let's kind of run down what we're going to be discussing today, because as usual, we have an exciting show for you. So joining us here in just a little bit, we have Chip Yates. Chip is the CEO and founder of Yates Electrospace Corporation, which that name alone already sounds cool. Electrospace is fun to say. But he is an inventor. He's a daredevil, really, when it comes down to it. He has set 5 different ePlane records, electric airplane world records. I think some of them have been previously broken now, and he wants to reclaim those. He's going to talk about that and everything else that he's doing in his life, which is just insanity and really, really cool. So we're going to be talking to him live here on the show. Also, we've got Davin Matthews, our photography editor, who's going to be joining us to talk about cameras and the way that a lot of companies are incorporating image stabilization into their cameras. Basically, if you're like me and you have trouble holding a camera steady and everything ends up blurry, these are the ways that they're looking to counteract that and make everything work out a lot better. Actually, the tech behind it is really cool, so Davin will be discussing that. And joining us here in studio for our opening segment and for our interview with Chip, we have Mr. Drew Prindle. Drew, our emerging technologies editor. Hello, Drew.
Hello.
Hello. So we normally we start the show off with kind of our lead topic in tech, what's trending, and I mean, I have to address what happened yesterday, which was the Super Bowl. If anybody watched that, it was the most boring game in the history of the world. I know Patriots fans, I know Pete here is probably very excited, but I mean, it was still, even if you were a Patriots fan, you have to admit that was the most boring game.
It was a pretty lame game.
It was pretty lame. Also, the halftime performance sucked. I don't even think we need to get into that. But what I want to bring up, though, is just talking about the tech side of it, because we could talk about the other side all day. Let's discuss some of the tech angles of it, in which tech companies were a huge part of all of the commercials in the Super Bowl this year. I mean, you had pretty much every major player was in there. Some of the ones that stood out, Amazon had a big one with their Alexa advertisement.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, with Forrest Whitaker and Harrison Ford. It was pretty funny.
Yeah,
I will give
cracked me up.
I'll give them that.
The dog that orders dog food.
Yeah, the dog that orders dog food and the smart toothbrush. All right, that was pretty funny. I think one of the other things that I thought was kind of a trend too of so many tech companies and tech being such a part of it was just how much AI and robotics were a part of these commercials.
Yeah,
AI was really a big theme. Some in good ways, some in not good ways. Some in like the future is scary.
Yeah.
And some maybe unintentionally scary, because the one that really weirded me out, and again, let us know what your comments are, was the TurboTax RoboChild. Good God, that thing's terrifying.
I didn't catch this one. I think I heard this from the other room when it was happening. But
it's supposed to be a robotic child, and it's trying to experience love and emotions. And I love you, Daddy. Like, it's just so, I think it's supposed to be endearing. There's nothing endearing about that to me.
How does this tie in with TurboTax?
Good question. I never didn't quite figure out what the tie-in there was.
All right, then.
Yeah, but nonetheless, RoboChild, super creepy. I would say definitely the creepiest of all the commercials.
I mean, I didn't even see it, but just from that clip.
Just that.
Yeah.
That was enough. That was enough right there. So you had, Amazon, TurboTax, Expensify, also just another tech company, an app that's actually making a big push. They have a big office here too, with 2 Chainz.
2 Chainz.
2 Chainz and Expensify.
The weirdest combination ever.
It is, yeah. And then you throw in Adam Scott, which Adam Scott's great and everything, but it was a good commercial. It was good, throwing in 2 Chainz.
Apparently that's the one that you can scan. They have like QR codes laced in the video periodically that you can scan with your phone.
Okay.
And apparently they're giving away some sorts of prizes.
Oh. Like you hang out with 2 Chainz or something like that?
I honestly don't know,
okay.
But yeah, it's like the first commercial that you can expense.
That you can expense
through the app.
That makes sense. Okay, all right. Well, now I'll have to go back through and I'll take a look at that. Taking a look here on the chat as we have comments. George just said the RoboChild wants to grow up to be the TurboTax app, hardware, or something like that. So that still is confusing to me, but that's at least sums it up a little bit better. But yeah, so tech making a big role on it. One other thing that I did think was also just kind of commentary that I thought was interesting on it was how much advertising there was for live streaming television services on the Super Bowl, on a broadcast television event.
Yeah.
Because virtually every player was in there. You had YouTube, Amazon Prime, Hulu, Netflix, all advertising throughout that. And what does that say, you know, for streaming television? Is they still got to acknowledge that the Super Bowl and broadcast television does have a role in it.
Yeah, it's true. But, I mean, to be fair, CBS does have their own streaming service now. That's what I was using because I don't have a cable package.
So you watched it on that?
I watched it through their streaming platform. So it was kind of funny to see other streaming services being like, nah, don't mess around with this CBS nonsense.
Yeah.
Get Netflix, get Hulu, get whatever.
Yeah, and I'm curious, you know, maybe for people watching, where did you watch the Super Bowl? Did you watch it streaming or did you watch it on broadcast television or cable? You know, how did you end up getting it? Because Netflix also made a statement. They made a post actually talking about it, and they just discussed how their viewership was down 32% during the Super Bowl. I actually thought it would be more, to be honest. But I guess that's the place to go if you don't want to watch the Super Bowl or if you're not interested in any of that. Yeah, so that was kind of an interesting concept on it. Taking a look here, we've got a lot of people hopping into the chat. So thank you for joining us as we're going through the show. So just discussing that, just talking about how you know, tech played a role in the Super Bowl. We've got some articles that will be going up at Digital Trends. You can take a look there. Let us know your thoughts. Let's get on to one of our favorite segments here, though, for the show, which is Read 'em and Weep, where we take a look at some of the comments and questions that have come across our different platforms and where you tell us what you think, and we do read the comments, and sometimes we do weep, but we would like to see what it is that you have to say. So we'll have those pull up here, and we'll take a look at what you have to say. Taking a look just really quick, Brian says, I tried to find a free live stream of the Super Bowl, didn't find anything that worked. We did have an article up at Digital Trends.
For how to live stream it for free?
For how to live stream.
Oh,
yep.
okay.
Yep, we did have that. I followed that myself. All right, Eric Weiser, regarding this bed is designed to save you from an earthquake. Is there a compartment for a change of pants? I can imagine needing them after that sudden drop and finding yourself in a coffin. Okay, I've seen what this is, and if it senses an earthquake, it drops you into like a sealed...
Basically like a coffin is what it looks like. Yeah,
yeah.
I saw this as well. There were a bunch of different designs, and some of them seemed safer than others. Some of them, it was like, if you don't, you know, if you have your arm hanging out, the lid's going to close on it. It's just, it looks a little bit dicey.
I dangle, my feet are dangling off the side.
Look at it even show. It's like, don't put your pillow outside of the...
Right. How terrifying. I would never be able to sleep like that. And then you're just sealed in your coffin with your water and whatever is in there. I mean, I guess that's better than the alternative, I suppose, but that's horrifying, though.
So yes, I think it does need a chamber for the brown pants.
Well, and how much could you just mess with somebody? Like if they're asleep, just go over and kick the side of their bed and just boom. You know?
Gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would think people would do with it.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, well, Eric, I agree. I mean, I guess maybe we would just put like a stronger thing. Why couldn't you just have something that's over the top of you that protects you a little bit better rather
than
I would sealing
do?
In your
I would just move to a place that doesn't have earthquakes.
Or that. All right, Eric, thank you for your comment. That was on Facebook. Taking a look at some of the other ones that we have here. We've got Rob DeFranco regarding these beds. Another one on this. Survive the earthquake, die 5 seconds later from a heart attack.
Yeah. Or like asphyxiation or just like suffocation.
Right.
It's like, I'd better have an oxygen tank in there.
Let's slow it down. Slow the death down for you. That's true. I don't know if they have the air worked into there. I'm assuming they thought of that.
I hope so.
Take it all the way
Seems
through.
Like a pretty big oversight.
Oh, dang it. Yeah, forgot that part. So we're getting a lot of comments on that one. So Rob, thank you for your comments on this. Gregory Smith regarding teens, young adults willingly share private data with Facebook for cash. This was a big story last week about Facebook and how they were using this research app, paying kids to, well, not just children, but I think the children was kind of the main thing that everybody got a little concerned with, paying children to take all of their data. Politicians willingly ignore Facebook data abuses for cash. That's an interesting take on it. I don't know how much Facebook pays for that, but I mean, I'm sure they pay for lobbyists.
I'm sure they've got lobbyists.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure all of the major tech companies do. I don't feel like it was ignored because Apple did have to respond to it. But I think there's a lot to unravel in there.
Yeah,
with that comment.
That was a wild story.
Yeah. So Gregory, I can kind of see that. I can kind of see where you're coming from. Probably virtually any company is going to be paying for some kind of political capital. But yeah, how much is it being ignored? That was actually a big discussion on our tech podcast, Trends with Benefits, that we had last week, where we're talking about who should be regulating this. Who should regulate? Drew and I are both on that, and we kind of went in depth on that. So if you're looking for a little bit more talk on that, just wherever you get your podcasts, Google Digital Trends and hit subscribe and listen to a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown on both that Facebook issue and who should be policing all of that. So good, heavy-hitting comments that we have here. All right, let's take a look. Bobby Badman, regarding LG's insane 5K monitor review. You need some effing sleep, bro. Wow, harsh. I don't know who did that review.
I mean, I assume Luke?
Luke, maybe? Yeah, probably.
Kind of covers all of our monitor stuff. Did he just look tired that day? Did he have some bags under his eyes?
I don't know, man. Bobby,
I need a backstory on this one.
Well, how did you just talk about the review, dude? I mean, sometimes it's, we work hard. It's long hours. I'm going to drink some more coffee. So, Bobby, thank you for the comment. All right. Let's see. I'm not sure if we have any other ones left. We got one more here. Martine Weinstein, regarding Meet the Icon A5, the high-tech airplane that anyone can fly. This was the plane that you flew. Flying is never the hard part. It's the landing that takes a bit of skill.
That is the truth. That's the reason that we landed on water instead of landing on land, because if I would have landed on land, I probably would have killed us. But water is a little bit more forgiving. Yeah. And I still screwed up the first couple ones that I did.
But you were able to land, though.
Yeah.
And we talked about this on Friday here on Digital Trends Live, where Drew, so if you haven't read the article, go there. There's a video of it, everything. It's a plane that virtually anybody can fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you flew it.
Yeah.
For like 3 hours.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it sounds pretty amazing, and I'm still jealous. So, great article. You can check that out there. But yes, you are right. Sounds like the landing part is the hard part. All right, let's get on to some other tech headlines here that we want to talk about. As I said, coming up here in just a little bit, we've got Chip Yates who's going to be joining us. Maybe we can definitely talk about some flying vehicles with him. One thing that was trending in the news this morning has to do with gaming and just cross-platform gaming. Xbox Live and their continuing mission to try to become like the Netflix of gaming. Everybody kind of wants to develop that. Apple's supposedly working on one. Microsoft is trying. Sony's been trying. Well, Xbox may be taking a little bit of a lead here with some new cross-platform options. So you're going to soon be able to integrate Xbox Live across PC, Xbox, of course, iOS, Android, and Nintendo Switch, which is going to be interesting. Now, this is a report from Windows Central, and they said that Microsoft is going to announce it at their Xbox Live event next month. Well, what that means, though, is that's a pretty big integration. If you can play it across virtually any mobile device and Nintendo Switch, I found that kind of surprising that Xbox is incorporating with the Nintendo Switch. And the statement was that they're expanding from 400 million gaming devices to a reach of over 2 billion devices with that new cross-platform option. What do you think of this, Drew?
I'm all for it. I mean, Xbox, they got Microsoft behind them. I think if anybody's going to be able to do this and actually make the Netflix of gaming, I think they're definitely one of the better people that have a shot at it. Yeah.
I mean, I think whoever can actually do that really well will have a huge advantage, because I mean, Netflix of gaming, that would be pretty odd. You pay one price, you can play the game on any device, say, and they're opening it up for developers to do that explicitly, so you can develop on all these different platforms.
I'm curious. It's kind of funny. You remember that service? I think it was called GameFly, where you could order games through the mail.
Yeah.
Why didn't they become the Netflix of gaming? Because that was the Netflix. They just didn't
branch off into that. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, I suppose it's a little bit harder than the Netflix side, the streaming side. Yeah. Somebody had to do it. I mean, nobody has done it, I guess, yet. So maybe Microsoft will be the one. That story is a big topic right now in a trending tech headline. Taking a look at some of the comments that are coming through here. I'm looking on YouTube. Waymon says, when you guys going to do a review on TVs? Have stopped doing that like Sony AF9 does. David still do that. Well, we do have lots of reviews on televisions. I guess to answer that part of it, just go to Digital Trends, or if you're on our YouTube channel, we have tons of television reviews on there that you can take a look at, and we have never-ending supply of those. So we'll definitely talk about those. Let us know what your comments, questions are. Let's kind of move on to another topic here. This one I found really fascinating, has to do with cryptocurrency. And this is a story that's, I feel like it's still developing, and we're going to find out a lot more about it. But here's what we have right now. A crypto exchange has no access to a $190 million bank account after a founder dies with the only password. Oh, no. So that's the basic. Let me get into it a little bit more. So there's a crypto exchange, a Canadian one, called Quadrica CX. And their founder's a 30-year-old guy named Gerald Cotton, who passed away unexpectedly in India in this last December. And when he died, though, he apparently had the only password to the cold storage of $190 million worth of cryptocurrency.
And he just had it stored in his brain?
Stored in his brain, apparently, not written down anywhere, no business documents detailing it, no way to recover it. $190 million, so all of these investors who put their money in have no access to their funds.
Completely locked out, huh?
Completely locked out. There's a lot that goes into this report, and just a couple of other things. Drew, I want to get, since you know a lot more about cryptocurrency than I do, I want to get your opinion on this. Some of the reporting is they talked to his widow, Jennifer Robertson, who has his computer, and said she doesn't know the password either. She said he left behind no business records. However, there are some kind of suspicious things going on with it as well, in that his death is a little bit suspicious in that it supposedly was based on Crohn's disease, complications from Crohn's disease.
Okay.
But it was still unexpected. There's some weird kind of records going on as far as what happened in India. There's acknowledgement from the Canadian government that a Canadian did in fact pass away in India at this time, but it's a little bit weird on that. And there's also rumors that some of the money was moved after he passed away, but everybody is claiming they don't have the password, and that's what's going on. Taking a look at our comments right now, we got Kenda, who just said, "Holy catfish," so it just sits there unclaimed. That's essentially it. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, until they can get access to it. So I feel like there's going to be all kinds of efforts for, like, data recovery. They're going to get his laptop. They're going to see if they can, like, find the password somewhere on that, for sure. They're probably already doing that.
Yeah.
$190 million. You're not just going to sleep on that one.
$190 million, yeah, but what if they can't? I mean, how is it possible that only one person has access to this? I mean, that just seems ridiculous.
But this isn't the first time that something like this has happened in the crypto space. Like, you hear stories all the time about people losing like hard drives or their crypto wallets, basically, back in the day that had, like, hundreds of Bitcoin.
Right.
Which today are worth, like, way more than they were back in the day.
Which I know you used to have some of those.
Yes, yeah, don't even remind me. But yeah, this is kind of a common theme for cryptocurrencies, people losing passwords, because it's not like, physical money or like a physical vault that can be, like, cracked and cut into. It's like, if you lose the password, you're screwed. And
just the fact that there's no recovery system. Like, oh, forgot your password, hit reset.
I think this is a prime candidate for one of those, like, hackathon, like, prize type things. So
if you can get it,
if you can crack this guy's password, we'll give you like 10%. How's 19 million sound?
Yeah. Yeah, well, I mean, I would certainly. Well, though, if you could crack it, why not just take all of it?
I don't.
I mean,
fair enough.
I mean, I'm not advocating that, but I'm just saying, if you can get into it, I mean, who's gonna stop you? I don't know. Okay, so Patrick here just said, don't you think that this story may be false? And that's one of the things. I don't believe the story's not false, but whether there's some inaccurate information in this, absolutely. And that's one of the things I was saying, that this seems weird to me. It seems something. Something just seems weird.
It's just your gut.
No, but my gut says $190 million. Somebody knows something, about this. Maybe it's just hard for me to wrap around that it could be that simple. That it's just one password and that's it. Boom, it's gone. And maybe it is that simple.
Yeah.
But something just seems weird. It seems like it's from a movie. Like, there's got to be a conspiracy theory in here somewhere when it comes down to it. Let's see. Oh, Kenda said, didn't 50 Cent lose a laptop with a bunch of cryptocurrency too? You're right. I believe he did. Yeah. Lose some money in that. I don't know. Something seems weird about it, but that's what the story is. That this $190 million is now missing, based on a lost password.
I'm excited to follow this in the future, because it's going to be like a big, excited thing when they finally crack it.
Oh yeah, finally crack it, or they figure something out, or because the conspiracy theories are going to go wild that he faked his own death to get out of this, and and he actually had the code and moved all the money and went on the run. I mean, who knows?
Definitely going to keep following this one.
Yeah, there's a movie being written right now that's based on this, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like, somebody's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I'm going to make a movie out of that. So that's definitely something that's going to be happening on this. All right. So let's see. I think we have time for one more topic, and then we're going to be heading to our interview here in just a moment. So sticking around here with Digital Trends Live. Our final thing I wanted to bring up just has to do with Twitter. Once again in the news. This time, Twitter CEO and founder Jack Dorsey went on Joe Rogan's podcast. Joe Rogan seems to be getting some interesting guests lately.
I mean, have you been following the show? He always gets awesome guests.
Yeah.
He talks to him for like 3 or 4 hours.
That's why I stopped following.
Yeah.
So we've got Jack Dorsey going on there talking about, once again, how Twitter might be getting an edit button, which I think is highly needed.
Really? I think it's...
So what do you think? Do you think they do or don't?
No, because, like, I don't know. I like the fact that you can't change... Like, Twitter is basically like public record. Like, if you said something, it's there, it's immutable, you can't change
it's there forever.
Something that you said. And I feel like going back in and being able to edit what you said, especially for certain accounts, would be a bad thing.
Yeah, for certain accounts, I understand where you're going there. Certain accounts, absolutely. I would like it just for that quick, like one of the ideas was maybe a 5-second or 30-second delay. So kind of like sending an email right now where you can like stop it, undo.
That would be a nice
correct
feature.
it.
So like I feel like the reason most people want an edit button is because of like you send one out with like a typo in it or something like that.
I send stuff out with typos all the time, and then it's either delete it or and you got to repost it, and you know.
So I feel like there's a better way to address that than an edit button that allows you to fix a tweet at any time. It should be within the first like 3 minutes after posting or something like that.
So 3 minutes, you think you have time?
Yeah.
Okay. So not just like a 5-second, like, no, gotta fix it.
I don't know, somewhere between 3 minutes and like 1 minute.
Patrick just said on Facebook, it's censorship to do that. I mean, I don't know if it's censorship. It's a private platform, so I don't. There's a whole bag of worms there. But one other idea was that you would still be able to see the original post. Like, you know, you can go back just like on Facebook if you edit something, you can still see the original. So that's kind of an interesting part of it to see where that's going to be going.
Yeah.
But yeah. So all of that right there, you can take a look at that at digitaltrends.com, just kind of unraveling that. Whether or not Twitter should have an edit button, I feel like we could do an entire show on that, just as far as where that goes, what that means for communication. All right, this is Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in right now. Wherever you're watching across all of our different platforms, we really do appreciate it. And one of the things that we do here at Digital Trends Live is bring you great interviews. And we have somebody awesome that's joining us right now. So very excited to have here on the show. We've got Chip Yates. Hello, Chip.
Hello, guys.
How you doing?
I've never been better.
Excellent. Where are you at right now? I got to ask.
Orange County, sunny Orange County, pouring down rain. It's pretty much Portland down here. So thanks.
Oh, is it actually putting out? See, you got our weather now. Well, Chip, you're the CEO and founder of Yates Electrospace Corporation, and so much more. I want to get into talking about all of the records that you want to break, the records that you have had. But maybe we should start in the beginning. Just how did you get your love of, or when did you develop your love of electric vehicles?
Oh, man. It started with an electric motorcycle. And actually, this painting you're seeing here is not that, but I had the idea to build an electric motorcycle. And so I started learning how to race motorcycles. And this is an old 1998 gas bike. I cut my teeth on this. And then in 2009, developed a small team, and we built an electric motorcycle. And that thing went up Pikes Peak and Bonneville and everything. It was you're seeing video of this, you know, it makes me a little queasy now to watch it.
God.
But there's a class there where we had to take the fairings off. So we set 8 world records with this thing. It was like, you know, we put lead on it so it'd be heavy. We took lead out of it so it'd be light. We took the fairings off so it'd be unfaired. We put the fairings on so it'd be faired. And oh, there, look at those sunglasses, man.
Yeah, that's a pretty badass pose right there.
That's so cheesy. But
if you're going 187 miles on an electric bike, I mean, you can do those kind of pictures. You deserve those kinds of shots.
It's like, you know.
I feel like the glasses made you faster.
Yeah, they did. Well, there's a quick funny story. We actually went 200 miles an hour in that, and I wear contact lenses. And at 200 miles an hour, my contact lenses were coming out of my eyes. Even my team was duct taping underneath my chin, trying to close the helmet. But this electric motorcycle was so fast that the air would come in and blow contact lenses out of my eyes. And so it cost me 2 contact lenses per run. And I was fully blind at the end of each run.
Oh my God.
I feel like there's
terrifying.
worse things that could have happened going that fast. So in the grand scheme, it was probably pretty good. Well, so you did that. You set a bunch of the records with e-motorcycles, and then you transitioned into e-planes. Let's talk about that, because that's a big leap from a motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, I like how you said transition. You made it seem like it was intentional, you know?
How did it happen?
Let's go with that, Greg. I retired that electric motorcycle in 2011, and I said, whew, thank God, 2 years of almost killing myself on this electric vehicle that was really, built in-house by a few volunteers. And I said, I'm going to take at least a month off. And I bought a bunch of books, went to Barnes & Noble, bought a bunch of books, went out and went to Catalina Island. And I said, I'm going to hike, I'm going to relax. Well, you know how this ends, right? So, 3 days into it, I hadn't read any books. I had this itching to say, well, if I could do an electric motorcycle, maybe I could do an electric airplane. That's a natural,
Sure.
That's a natural next step. Yeah, it was literally just that. And so I texted a couple of my guys who were volunteered on the electric motorcycle program, and I said, well, I'm not a pilot, and I've never logged a single hour in any kind of airplane. I have no idea what I'm doing, but we had the electric motor sitting around in the battery pack, and we said, why don't we stick it in an airframe and see what happens?
Well, that sounds like the beginning of a Darwin Award story, but I'm glad to see that you're still here with us. That's fantastic.
It's the beginning of 4 emergency landings and blown 401k programs and maxed out credit cards.
Totally.
You're seeing a mid-air recharging probe there. We developed a mid-air recharging capability for this with the U.S. Navy. I think this shot is one of the emergency landings. I've had so many, I don't know which one this is. This might be number 2. But you can tell from my face, that's some sort of emergency.
So wait a minute. You just said you developed a mid-air recharging thing. So it doesn't necessarily need to have all of its power in the battery. It can juice up on the go?
Exactly.
How does that work?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like mid-air refueling. We developed it with the U.S. Navy. We caught them spying on us. So we're out there in the desert in Inyakern Airport, out in north of the Mojave Desert, north of Los Angeles, where you can pretty much get away with anything. And we're developing this electric airplane, and I'm test flying it. And one of the flights we did, I'm flying, 200 miles an hour straight towards the U.S. Navy's restricted airspace. And little beknownst to me, there was even restricted airspace, but also that they were tracking us. And so I land, and that was one flight where I didn't have an emergency landing. So we were celebrating, and there's champagne and everything. and these black cars pull up, U.S. government official, X-Men cars,
Out in the middle of the desert.
Oh yeah, out in the desert. And these guys come up, and they're like, what is this thing? We're tracking. It makes no thermal signature. It's 200 miles an hour. We can't see it on radar. We can't see it on infrared. We've never seen an air vehicle like this. And that started a program with the Navy that we worked through and developed a mid-air recharging capability.
Wow, that is how terrifying was that?
Yeah, it was insane flying the airplane around with this probe and trying to connect it to, you're trying to have this coupling mid-air of a probe and drogue. But it worked well. It's an electromagnet, so it only has to sort of get in the ballpark, and then we've got a 400-pound electromagnet that kind of connects it. And you can see, from that probe, there's 2 copper strips. One's positive, one's negative, obviously, and the contacts just charge like that. So it's Elon Musk's vision of rapid, recharge electric vehicles, but only happening midair and a lot sketchier.
How long can you go then? In theory, how long could you fly?
Yeah, you got a good view of that there. Well, the battery pack we have in the electric airplane now is 53 kilowatt hours. And that is pushing into Tesla territory. If you look at a Tesla P80, that means 80 kilowatt hours. And we've got 53 kilowatt hours in the electric airplane. And that's the largest battery pack we've ever heard of any insane person sticking into an electric airplane. It's literally like flying around on top of a bomb.
Yeah.
But that plane, if we take it easy, that'll fly like an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes.
Wow.
So not bad. It's not there yet, right? But if we floor it during the world record setting, you're talking 10 minutes or something like that. If you're pulling 600 amps out of a 450 volt battery pack, it doesn't last long.
But is that something that's scalable, that you're working on, like building that up?
Yes, it's scaled as big as it can go in this airplane.
Okay.
So we're planning to attempt 6 world records in the airplane that we have now, and then this poor airplane, it's done more than its share of getting me out of scrapes and trouble, and it glides great. It saved my life at least 4 times, and so I feel like it deserves a retirement, in the Smithsonian or something. It was the first to break 200 miles an hour, and it got the electric airplane movement kind of kicked into high gear, maybe. So I love the thing, but the poor guy. I mean, the airframe was built in 1983. It's gone through several conversions. It's on its last conversion now. We're going to attempt these 6 world records. You're seeing a flight here from this October with a whole new configuration. That's the 53 kilowatt hour battery pack in there. Flew great over Inyakern. We got a facility up there, but yeah, this thing needs to be retired, and then we'll move on to whatever's next.
I was gonna say, it's been the same plane this entire time that you're just modifying. And
oh yeah, it's like I put it away for a year or two, and then after the fright of nearly being killed in these emergency landings, after that wears off, then we pull it back out and dust it off and put new batteries, and the technology is evolving so quickly. I
mean, at this point, it's kind of like your version of Willie Nelson's guitar. Like, I think you have to use this plane until the end.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it's like, Burt Munro, the world's fastest Indian. I mean, the guy's in New Zealand, casting pistons and, 50 or 100 pistons until he got one that worked and set the world's record, and just it is a grit story. We don't have any, we don't really have money. Yates Electrospace makes 2,000-pound drones, so that's a real company. But this electric airplane thing is just passion. It's pure passion.
Well, what are the 6 records you want to break?
Yeah, so 2 are speed. And the way the FAI, the world record body, sanctions it, there's speed over 3 kilometers and speed over 15 kilometers. Those are the 2 we'll be attempting. And then there's 2 altitude records. So, that's like 25,000 feet stuff. And I just got a brand new oxygen mask that's like, "Move, I am your father." These guys sent me this oxygen mask that's supposed to keep me alive at 25,000 feet. And I have no idea how it works. It's just cables and connections. And, you need a special engineer just to charge it with the oxygen. It's so dangerous. But they told me Navy SEALs use this to jump out at 30,000 feet. So it'll be fine for you. That's exactly what they said. So,
wow.
So we got that. So 2 altitude records, 25,000 feet or so, and then 2 time to climb records. And those are my favorite because it shows where an electric airplane truly beats a gas airplane, truly is in the climb, because the electric engine, the electric motor doesn't need oxygen, right? So as we rotate and climb, we're climbing up to 10,000 feet, and this airplane can climb 3,000 feet a minute. And whereas my gas airplane that's made by the wonderful company, Piper Aircraft Company, it can only climb 800 feet a minute, and that's a fully certified FAA approved airplane. Whereas ours climbs, more than 3 times fast than that because of the electric powertrain.
Just because it doesn't need that intake.
Yeah, well, first of all, it's incredibly torquey. This airplane makes 260 horsepower and 400 foot-pounds of torque, that's like, Chevy truck type numbers. You could take the motor out. It's only 12 inches around. The electric motor is only this big.
Wow.
You can take it out, and it could power a full-size pickup truck easily. And so you put that in a 900-pound airplane and, hold on.
Wow, that's incredible.
That sounds thrilling.
Well,
and terrifying at the same time.
Chip, this is awesome talking to you about this. I mean, how exciting that you're doing this. And this is just your side passion,
Exactly, yeah.
That you're creating these things. But what should people know about, A, following you for this, but also about your other company?
Yates Electrospace, it's just yateselectrospace.com. We thought it's cute. Instead of aerospace, we're electrospace because we're all about electric airplanes. That's what we do day in, day out. And if you go to yateselectrospace.com, you can see what we're doing. We just launched a disaster relief drone. It's a 2,000-pound drone that autonomously glides in and brings medicine, supplies, water, food to wildfires, to disasters. And that's we call that avius, which is a Latin word, which means sort of out of the way, hard to reach. And it's AVIUS, aviusair.com. That's our civilian disaster relief drone. We've got an unpowered version that you just drop out of another airplane and it glides. And then we've got an electric version that's coming out next year. So we just sold 40 of these aircraft in the US and internationally. this year. So, you know, we're a startup, but we're actually building these 28-foot wingspan disaster relief gliders.
Wow.
So, you know, if you're into autonomous cargo delivery, Amazon type stuff, then Yates Electrospace is the way to go. If you're into electric airplanes and world records, then, you know, check out. I'm on LinkedIn, obviously. I don't do social media that much anymore, but I do have a YouTube channel that I promise I'll try to start keeping up to date. It's just like, you know, 60-hour weeks, 80-hour weeks, you know. So yeah, YouTube, you know, youtube.com, Chip Yates, and you'll find it if you're interested.
You got a few other things on your plate, just a few, as you go.
a couple. I had an octopus on my plate the other day. It was, should I eat this or should I put it in an aquarium?
That's more daring than I want to be. Yeah, I don't know.
Exactly. It was crazy.
Well, Chip, thank you so much for coming on here today, too, just to talk about this. It's so much fun. You're going to have to hop back on the show again after you attempt some of these records so we can talk about it.
Definitely. Maybe we'll hook up a live stream or something so people can come in the cockpit with me. I'd love to stay in touch.
That would be cool. Yes, absolutely. Awesome. Well, Chip, thank you so much for being here on Digital Trends Live.
My pleasure. Take care, guys.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
And way cooler than anything I've ever done.
I think it's funny that he said, like, yeah, I'd never flown like a small single-engine aircraft before.
I know.
It's like, same. Yeah, it's terrifying.
That's true. Yeah,
but, like, I wasn't going 200 miles per hour. That's,
no.
Yeah.
I'm amazed that it's only 12 inches round, too. I had no idea.
Yeah, that's kind of incredible. That makes me excited for, like, the future of aviation.
Absolutely.
Electric planes that go super fast and are ridiculously easy to fly.
Yes, sold. All of this.
In.
All of it. Well, everybody who's watching right now, thank you for tuning into Digital Trends Live. So what's going to happen next is we're going to take a little bit of a break. Drew's going to hop out, and Drew, thanks for being in here.
Yeah, man, it's always a pleasure.
For today's show, it's been so much fun. And we've got Davin Matthews who's going to be joining us to talk about photography and the new ways that cameras are stabilizing pictures. It's easy to forget how important that is, and there's a lot of tech behind it, and so he's going to be discussing that and talking about some new things that some of the camera companies are doing, so we're going to learn about that all while broadcasting live here across our many different platforms. Stick around. We'll be back here in just a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Wherever you're watching, we really do appreciate it. I'm Greg Nibbler, and we're joined now by Davin Matthews. Hello.
Hey, good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Thanks for coming in here. So we were talking about this earlier, just cameras and kind of the technology that's advancing in cameras is not something that we have had a chance to talk a lot about here on Digital Trends Live, and in particular with the stabilization side. Like, I am notoriously shaky with my pictures. I don't know why, but I have a hard time. So stabilization is such a big thing, such a big part of where we're going.
Yeah, and it's camera companies are using stabilization for more than just stabilization now, which is pretty cool. And you know, just to be clear, like, this isn't new technology, but they do keep finding ways to make it better.
To improve upon what's already there.
Right. and it's interesting because it used to just all be about megapixels and more is better. Now, like, companies are realizing, oh, we have to do other things to sell our cameras. And so Olympus has been one that's been always very proactive about innovating in the stabilization space. They were one of the first to have a 5-axis sensor-based stabilization system. So the imaging sensor, which actually receives the light, is just moving, kind of like, you know, your phone has an accelerometer in it. It's that same kind of concept. So it's counteracting your movement from your hands and whatever.
Wobble or whatever.
And what's interesting is their last high-end camera that came out, they said it had the best stabilization that they could technically achieve because it was now limited by the rotation of the Earth.
Wow.
So but then they made it better with the camera that just came out a couple weeks ago, the EM1X. So we have a review by Hilary Gregonis up on digitaltrends.com. And the stabilization in that camera is so good. It's rated at 7.5 stops. I'll explain what that means in a second. But it's so good that you'll have to read the review. I forget the exact number, but I think it was something like 10 seconds. She handheld a 10-second long exposure, and it came out sharp.
Wow.
And I've never heard of a camera being able to do anything like that before.
No.
And so what it does is you have a sensor stabilizer. You also have a lens stabilizer. Those work together. And I'm not saying that anybody could handhold it 10 seconds, but
yeah,
Hillary's good enough too. I don't know if I could, but yeah, depending on how naturally stable you are. So what's neat about this camera is they pushed beyond that limit, the Earth's rotation limit, or what we thought was the limit. And there's also on Digital Trends is an interview that Hillary did with some of the Olympus engineers on how they did that.
Yeah.
But basically they realized there were actually other factors they had yet to isolate and account for. And now they say that they've done that, and they are now actually limited by the rotation of the Earth.
Now they're actually really
I mean, it's insane to think about a piece of consumer technology that's so sensitive that just the Earth rotating has enough acceleration in it that will throw it off.
That is insane. Well, you said 7.5.
Yeah, so 7.5 stops, and the stop is a unit common to photographers. But if you're not in that world, a stop is basically either a doubling or a halving of your exposure value. So if you're at a 60th of a second, one stop less would be a 30th of a second.
Okay.
And then from there and there. So you can basically shoot a shutter speed, 7.5 stops slower than you would normally be able to,
because
and
of
still get a sharp shot. Yeah.
Because of their stabilization technology.
So the other way that this is being used is actually not to stabilize, but to actually purposefully move that sensor by microscopic amounts, like half a pixel's width, in order to capture more resolution.
So like maybe something that we're looking at right now, like this for a...
Yeah, so, well, not that shot right now. I didn't see what came up before, because that's an action shot. And so it does take time to move that sensor. So that is something this Olympus camera is doing. So I think you can get up to like an 80 megapixel photo with the Olympus. I could be wrong on that. I wasn't the one who reviewed it.
Yeah, but it's a lot of pixels.
But there's a new camera that just came out from Panasonic. So they just announced their S1, S1R last week. And we do have articles that go in depth about this on Digital Trends, just covering the announcement. But basically, the way it works on the S1R, why it's so interesting, is that camera has a 47 megapixel sensor. But using this high-res mode, that can actually go up to 187 megapixels, which is, it's kind of a stupidly high number.
Yeah, I'm like, why would you even take a picture of that?
Yeah, so most people definitely do not need that, but I think there is some use in, like landscape photographers will probably use it. Also, if you're doing like fine art reproduction, and you want to truthfully reproduce something as much as you can, people might use it for that. There could be some scientific applications, studio still life work if people are doing advertising photography and they need to make huge prints and different crops from the same photo. But yes, in general, 187
Can't even imagine
megapixels.
how big that file is.
I remember when they teased that the cameras would have that feature, and I had speculated in the article I wrote at the time that it could theoretically reach 180 plus megapixels. I didn't actually think they would let people do that. I thought that they would process those pixels and then automatically downscale it. But no, they're actually letting you shoot 187 megapixels. So that's pretty cool.
And that's the Panasonic S1.
That's the S1R, yeah.
S1R.
So they have the S1, does the same thing, but it starts at 24 megapixels. So you only get like 96 megapixels.
Oh, geez, just nothing. Yeah. So that's the S1 on that, and so that's using that stabilization technology, though. That's
right. So again, they're so sensitive, but they're also, those motors are so precise that the width it's microns that they're able to shift that sensor in a controlled way. And they're able to do that again and again and again and again. You know, so it's pretty impressive technology, even if you don't need 187 megapixels.
Yeah, but I'd like to know that I could.
It's like,
you know,
knowing your car can go 200 miles per hour.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you're never going to drive it that fast.
But I can say I can. You know. Well, where do you think this is going to be going? Like any kind of predictions that you would have based on this now that they've made it to 180?
Yeah. Or is Olympus still lying? Is the actual Earth's rotation limit like that somewhere else?
How many times can they change their story?
Right.
We're getting into conspiracy theories here.
Tables over here.
You see stabilization here.
Yeah.
So yeah, where do you think that they can go?
I do trust Olympus at this point that they are pushing up against that limit. And again, they're only achieving that when they use the sensor and the lens stabilization together. So if you're not using a stabilized lens, it's like 6.5 or 7 stops, I think.
Okay.
Which is still crazy. So I don't know really if they're going to be able to do that better.
Yeah.
I think there are probably still ways that they can improve stabilization in other areas. One of the things is it still can be kind of difficult for shooting video if you're panning or walking with the camera, because the amount that sensor can move has a limit. So once you bump up against that, so I don't know if there's ways they could smooth that out, make that work better. That'd be cool to see. For now, people still use dedicated video gimbals that hold the camera. But yeah, I would like to see something like that. Don't know if it's possible, if it'll happen, but I think that'd be pretty cool.
Taking a look here, Brian just had a comment on Facebook just to bring this up. Will big improvements in image stabilization allow higher zoom optics in digital cameras? Yeah,
potentially. So that's one of the things when you're using a telephoto lens that having stabilization is really good for. And it's not just for getting a sharp picture, but at that point it's actually being able to see what you're shooting.
Yeah.
If you're hand holding with like a 600 millimeter lens, it's really difficult because any little shake gets magnified a lot. So it can be really hard just to frame your photo. And then if you're trying to like follow a bird or an athlete or something at the same time, which is usually why you're using that type of a lens, it can be really difficult. So that's definitely a big benefit to having stabilization. Whether or not it's going to allow people to actually make longer optics, I think people are, they've always been making longer optics all the time. But it will allow that to be more useful.
So you can actually take a picture if it's as you're extending that out.
And you can, there's that limit where you would need a tripod is just getting pushed farther. So.
Wow, it's really cool. Well, you can check all that out at digitaltrends.com and all of Davin's articles and all the articles that we have about this. So it's Hillary Gregonis. She had the one about the Olympus. That's on there.
I haven't actually used the camera yet, so sorry.
Yeah.
It'd be cool if we could have it.
I know. Yeah, we need to get that in here. Well, Davin, thank you so much for coming in here to talk about this stuff too. It's always fun. And I think, at this point, I think we're just going to go ahead and wrap the show. So I want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Digital Trends Live, broadcasting live every day, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you tech headlines, news, interviews. Earlier on the show, we had Drew Prindle in here. We kind of walked through some of the big tech headlines that are going on. You can follow up about all of those at digitaltrends.com. We had Chip Yates talking about his ePlanes and where he's going with that and what he's doing to try to, test life and death by going hundreds of miles an hour in an ePlane. He's awesome. Check out that interview. If you didn't get a chance to see that, go back and watch that here for Digital Trends Live. And of course, Davin coming in here to talk about the improvements in cameras and stabilization technology and what that's going to mean and what it's going to allow you to do. Every day, something new and different. Tomorrow on the show, we've got Stephanie Humphrey, with one of the hosts, or the host of Tech Life with Steph. We've got Stefan Paternotte, one of the early pioneers of social media online. I believe it was theglobe.com. He founded that. He became one of those tech multimillionaires, and then it kind of went away. And now he's the subject of a National Geographic show. He's the National Geographic show Boomtown. He is represented in that. So we're gonna have him on to talk about his book, his life, everything that's going on with that. So that's all tomorrow as well as Kim Wetzel. And you're talking about smart homes. Every day something different. Every day we enjoy being live here with you. So however you're watching, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you get right back here every morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, and we'll see you tomorrow with more Digital Trends Live.